To the November 16th, 1:30 p.m. City Council meeting. At this time, we will stand for the pledge and prayer by Councilwoman Perez.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father God, we just come before you today and we just thank you for such a beautiful day, Lord. And God, we just come and we ask for the spirit of wisdom to rule and reign in who we are up here, Lord. I bless this council and those that represent every place of administration within this city, Lord. Father, I ask that you would not only just bless your workers, but Lord, we ask that you bless the city. That we would have ears to hear what you want to do in this place, Lord. Because first of all, it is yours. And so, Father, as we make decisions and as we are being led, Lord, we just want to hear what you have to say, Lord.
Yes.
So, Father, we just thank you and we praise you for this meeting in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. And at this time, we will have questions and comments from any citizen that would like to speak. And I see none, so we'll move forward to the city manager's monthly report.
So I'm going to start going over the new department report form that everybody got in their packet this week. So as y'all might remember, over the budget process, we started expanding and implementing benchmarking and performance measurements more detailed than we have in the past. And so now that's kind of what's going to consist of the department report. So what you'll see in this report, that's also in the packet available online to anybody that would like to look at it, is broken down by department. You then have two categories. And so we have benchmark measures, and what I mean by benchmark are those are the performance measures that the International City County Management Association has determined apply regardless of city size or city scope. And so with these, if we collect that data, when we submit them to ICMA, we then get access to their benchmarking data. So we can pull data from other cities and compare how we're doing in those service areas compared to other cities based on what criteria we want to pull out. So there's enough description in there that we can find cities that are maybe more comparable to us based on the demographic information that we're getting. And then there are also performance measures. And these are the things that we want to measure to judge our performance on our strategic vision pillars or our comp plan. So not every department has benchmarks, but every department at least has performance measurements. And so on this form, what you see is the first column is the current month. So that's our actual results from the month of October. Now, if there's a dash, it means we did not collect data for that month. There are several performance measurements that rely on software that's under development or some other procedures that we're in the process of implementing that have not implemented yet. So that's where you'll see some dashes. If it's 0, you will see that means there was actually, that's 0 is the actual response for that month. So like in recreation, you will see summer park rec attendance at 0 because it's October. So as we get into the summer months, then those will start populating in. The next column is the year to date. So each month, it will be a running total of where we're at for the year to date. Total or average depending on the performance measure. The third column is the fiscal year target. So as part of the budgeting process, remember we budgeted what we wanted our performance goals to be as part of the budget. So that field will not change. Each month, that's the goal that we're trying to reach by the end of the year. Now, I've told my directors that I don't anticipate us to meet the goal in everything because, there are some of these performance measures we know we need to improve in. But I want the goal to be realistically set for what our final end goal is. And we need to have realistic set points so that we know what needs to change or what needs to be modified. The far right column is what we did last fiscal year. So that gives you a comparison to what we did last year versus what we're targeting for this year versus where we're at for the year to date versus what changed for the current month. Of course, some of these measures have dashes in them from last year because we're just starting collection this fiscal year. So as we go forward, that will happen. But I think I'm grateful for the directors and the departments compiling all of this together. I think, for the council and the community as a whole, it gives everybody a much greater idea of what our departments and our employees are doing on a monthly basis. That's a little more grounded and actual outcomes and outputs, kind of compared to our more basic generic monthly reports. But so you will start getting this monthly in place of what you had kind of seen as a monthly report. We are working on getting a more visual portal put on the website that's a little more easy for the community to see and see our performance, but that's still a little ways out. If you recall, we started this switch to kind of performance management and data-driven government about 3 years ago. And, it started with 1 or 2 small measures per department, and we're slowly kind of building on that. So this is the next progressive step, and we will keep building on that. But since this is the first time you've seen it, and it's pretty well drastically changed from what you're used to, I did want to explain it just a little bit. But are there any?
Well, just correct me if I'm wrong, and I probably am, but okay, on the benchmarks, those measurements are not the departmental, the department heads did not set those. They set the performance measures.
Right.
The benchmarks is like what the.
We took those out of the ICMA manual. They told us what those measures are, and I told the departments we will measure these benchmarks.
Okay.
So like I said, and the other benchmark measures are kind of a collaboration between the departments and the comp plan and the strategic, we've got all this strategic planning and we've got all these missions and pillars. Now, how do we know if we're making progress to what we've set out? Okay. And that's what we're trying to do with these.
That's the performance measures
Right.
that you're talking about.
So like in administration, one of our goals is community involvement. And so that's why you can see some of the performance measures are like Facebook engagement.
Right. Yeah.
Videos produced, those things that directly tie to how we're engaging and educating the public. So we want to see what our reach is, and is that getting better or is it not getting better? You will notice that there are some spots in the benchmark measures that are, like under administration, it is survey, quality of all local government services, percent excellent or good. So later this year, we will be participating in ICMA's National Community Survey. So we will actually be sending out a scientifically randomly based survey to gather those responses. And so that is important to me so that we can get actual, scientifically based judgment to those answers. So of course, that's going to be dashes for quite a while, but when we get a survey result back, we'll be able to print that and see where an actual scientifically based opinion out of our community kind of feels like we're at, so that we know what we need to adjust and where we're doing good, where we need to do better, what people really think, versus what we think the loud people think.
Yeah. So on these benchmarks, just like the fiscal year target, is that just based on a city our size, or?
That is our goal.
Okay, so that is okay.
Right. So we set that goal based on what we feel, and that'll be part of the budget process. It's a little random this year because some of this we don't have data to know what we should be doing.
Okay.
And to get access to the benchmarking standards, I have to have data to provide to them.
Okay.
The benchmarking standards are free, but they want that's the trade-off. We give them our data, we get their data.
I see. So these are the benchmarks that they keep, that
the national
they keep
databases
Okay,
house.
all right. And then the performances are just different ones that y'all are
Right.
also looking at.
So like I can go in and select, I want to see this rating for cities between 10 and 15,000
Okay.
people that have a median household income of this, so that maybe it's a little more representative to what we are. I can say I only want to see Texas cities, or maybe I want to see
Okay.
nationwide cities, maybe, because we can look at the demographics will allow us to kind of pick what those cities are so that we get some decent comparisons, and we're not just, you know, trying to compare ourselves to the closest city around that might pull these numbers, which might not be
And
comparable.
you're really, if you go and look at that, you're just gonna get these these benchmark
Right.
measures. The performance measures are pretty much just internally.
Right, the performance
Okay.
measures are for us,
Right.
judging our
Okay.
progress
I
towards.
just wanna make sure
yeah.
I understand it exactly. I'm sorry, I know I asked a lot of questions, but I just wanna be sure. Makes sense now, thank you.
I love this. It's again, an increased transparency. It allows people to see, citizens to see, you know, what we're doing. How many feet of alleys are graded a month. I like to stamp out confusion though. I don't think most people are gonna look at year-to-date and think in fiscal year. And most people don't know where our fiscal year starts. So, because I'm getting complaints sometimes where citizens, they read a line and they don't understand what they're seeing. So is there a way that we can make this a little more readable, that when we say year-to-date, we're saying fiscal year, and that we're reminding them that the fiscal year starts in October? And I know you're doing that at the top heading.
Well, yeah, I don't have a problem. It's really easy for us to change that heading to dates instead of fiscal year to date, October, you know.
Well, we know
Yeah.
what we're seeing, but I like citizens looking at this, but then I don't want confusion
Yeah.
to spring from it. So
Well, that's what is also why we're trying to move to that graphical, you know, web-based platform at some point too. But that, yeah, we can look for that change next month.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions before I kind of go on to normal stuff?
Thank you, Garrett.
Yeah, it's pretty self.
So, of course, you know, talking about that, when we talk about fiscal year, you know, the city's fiscal year starts October 1. So we're just 1 month in. So of course, my financial summaries are a little more vague right now because we're 1 month in. So there's a lot of, you know, things that can still happen. But we have received 2 sales tax payments now so far this fiscal year. And we are about a little over 12% up from last year. And so our sales collection remains above the 5-year average. Of course, I do think probably some of the price inflation is impacting that because, you know, sales tax is a percentage of the total sales price. But I do think that also is somewhat related to sales activity. And so sales tax is delayed for 2 months. So the sales tax we received in November was for August sales. Hot tax remains slightly above the 5-year average now, and we're just a little bit above our budgeted amount, so it has stabilized from the pandemic as well. Water sewer revenue remains above budget and above the average. We are continuing to still sell significant water to our industrial partners, which again is driving the little over $3 million in investment in water wells coming this fiscal year. The dome is progressing. We are starting to run into some supply-related delays. We'll see how that, lighting fixtures are starting to become a little bit of a problem that we're trying to work through. But it's progressing quite well. There's a new video on Facebook and YouTube for the walkthrough of the dome, if anybody is interested in seeing how it stood as of November 7th. They've started boring the utilities in the 400 block of Main Street. You've probably seen that. They are pulling the pipe starting today, so hopefully the pipe in the 500 block alley will be down in the 400 block later this week. You're going to start seeing some additional there. The pipe in the 300 block collapsed on Monday. So we knew that was coming. You know, there is money in the budget for that project. It is partially engineered, but we will be rushing that forward, and so we'll be going out to bid and trying to get that project done probably, you know, as soon as we can after the first of the year. But
We were originally gonna do that next year, hoping it survived.
right.
Okay, so we're gonna do it.
Yeah, it's going to rearrange our CIP just a little bit, and we talked about that in the budget process. That's especially with the concrete sewer lines. We knew that, we said if we pick this one, that one will be the one to collapse. And that's kind of what happened here, but we do have the funds available because we knew we were going to need to do something, so.
And then we'll hit the main that runs under 3rd Street,
It's actually been replaced.
and it's in good shape. So
yeah, right.
we should- Main Street,
We will
owners
keep
should
the-
be happy.
Well, we've got to keep going to First. on the other side of Third. So it's new under the state highway, but that's it.
Okay, but it runs and ties into.
The main is in Third, yeah, so
Right.
but
So
the
what's on,
south of Third
okay, oh, yeah.
is still concrete. It doesn't impact the rest of Maine because of the way that the flow changes, but
Right.
it is still concrete, so that's still
Okay,
in our plan. So actually, we're gonna go ahead and have them engineer all the way to First Street. I don't think we'll bid out that whole stretch, but it'll probably, the rest of it will be next year.
okay.
I am, because of this, they're vacuuming 2 to 3 times a day now. That vacuum truck was slated for replacement next year. I would expect a bid award, if I can get it at the next council meeting, to get that truck ordered. I'm afraid it's gonna have a long lead time, and as much as we're relying on that vacuum truck until we can get all of the sewer lines replaced, it's a pretty big critical piece of infrastructure.
That's the combo truck, the green machine.
That's the, yeah. And so right now, what's happening is when the lines collapse, the sewer collects in the manhole and has to be manually vacuumed out of the manhole and taken to the wastewater treatment plant. And so we've been pretty much vacuuming some manhole along Main Street daily for every bit of a year, and I think it's closer to 2, because we were doing some of that on the other side of the alley when we started that project 3 years ago. The truck's about 10 years old, and so, you know,
Is it that old?
yeah.
Wow.
And so we've replaced a couple of pump motors in it, so I just want y'all to be aware that that's forthcoming. I don't know, we'll see what the lead time is. I don't think we'll have to worry. We have contingency funding for it in the water sewer funding if it does get here this year, but I'm afraid it won't even be here based on our lead time on all of our other heavy equipment. But we definitely can't wait to order it next budget year and get it another year after that if lead times don't improve, so.
But we do have, I mean, if it does come in this year, we have.
Yes, we have contingency funding to pay for that. Well, and the water sewer has reserve funding too that we can
Yeah.
use. They have a significant amount of reserve funding.
What fund is that contingency money in? What fund? Is
Fund
that the-
2,
Okay.
the water sewer fund.
Okay.
So it's in Department 430, which is the water sewer reserve account section.
Okay.
The parking lot has been complete, and we've got the closeout documents on that. You'll notice that they finally did the final sanding and have corrected a portion of the sidewalk that didn't have the appropriate grade for ADA standards. So that's what you saw them tear out and re-pour. We've got the banner poles back up. We did receive, I don't have a fancy letter for you because Texas Department of Agriculture has changed their notification process through their grant management software that they now have, but I do have the official award notification email, which is all of 2 lines on the downtown parking lot grant, or downtown revitalization grant, which was the new one we just put in for. So we have officially been awarded that. We'll sign contract documents in the next couple of weeks, and that will demolish the building at
Great.
418 North Main, and will replace a significant portion of the sidewalks in the 700 block. Most of it right there in front of Jalisco's, where we have that big height, and I don't even like to call it sidewalk anymore, it's so crumbly.
Oh, it is. So will that'll tear it down, will it also?
It will not build
Well, it will not build a park.
we'll probably talk about that,
Okay.
you know, in a budget adjustment, later.
And this is Fed pass-through money at matching at what rate?
At 25%. So it's a $350,000 grant, and then we will match 25% of that.
And the feds pay the 75.
Right. So it's about a $430,000 estimated total project cost, and the grant reimbursement on that is $350,000. So it's.
And that will only tear down the building and put sidewalks in one block?
Well, it will replace several handicap ramps at those exits, and that sidewalk is
It's bad, I know.
well, because it's high,
Yeah.
it also has to have railing.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And so, you know, that adds significant amount of cost there on that big stretch.
Yeah.
But that's excited to have that grant.
It is. That's great.
And of course, our tough projects continue. They've completed the sidewalk and curb in the by Roberts, Coble Street by North Hughes Park.
Yeah.
If you haven't been by
It
there,
looks
that
great.
has turned out really, really
Yeah, it
well.
does.
So as we continue to try to expand our sidewalks around the community. They have also started the drainage
And
project.
that was picked because of the parks, correct? I mean,
Right.
that's how the streets are kind of being picked,
The,
or the
that,
sidewalks.
we're trying to get a safe path connecting parks and schools.
Okay.
And so the plan there in that initial stretch was to connect North Hughes Park to Paul Belton. And so as we go farther south, you know, and down Coble, because Coble can cross 10th and go straight to Paul Belton. So that's why that
Okay.
was
Well,
picked.
I had that question, but
Yeah.
I was thinking that as well. Thank you.
And so schools and parks are driving the sidewalk selections. You know, last year we also completed the sidewalk from Florida to Kay. You know, there was that 150 feet piece of grass that was never finished, so we went ahead and finished that with all the kids there. So we're trying to give those paths to the areas where the kids frequent an opportunity to get up off the street
Right.
and onto a sidewalk. They have Public Works started on the Loma Linda drainage there and that little easement, you know, we have, all the water from that, half of that subdivision goes down that little alley into down Lakeview Street into the pond, so we're putting some concrete down there to prevent wear. Planning and development, of course, you know, we had several meetings
Is
last
that
month.
in the city limits? Okay. Sorry.
No, you're good.
I didn't think that was in the city limits.
Yeah, the city limits ends at the country
At the
club.
country, okay.
But Loma Linda, St. James, San Juan Way, all of that is in the city
Oh,
limits.
okay. Thank you, sorry.
And when they get done there, they're gonna move over to Warwick and Sarasota. We'll have to concrete part of that intersection there. We've been slowly trying to do that in a lot of areas because, you know, the water flows so fast in this city that it tears up the pavement. So we're trying to get a more permanent solution there before we go back and repair pavement so that we're not, you know, constantly repairing the same areas. Like I said, in planning and development, we had several meetings on the Unified Land Development Module 2 in the last month. I think those have gone pretty well. They've been working with Scooters, as everybody's seen, that the pad work next to Country Chevrolet, that's the Scooters Coffee, if you haven't seen the signs of the work, so that's progressing. We have completed our open enrollment for health insurance for all of our employees for next year in the HR department. Michelle and Byron have been working hard on that to get everybody registered with a software change that kind of occurred with TML, which, you know, that's a big process even without any changes like that. The police department's getting ready to start recruiting their next police recruits for the next session. That'll probably be released. The job opening will be released in mid-December for that go-round. The fire department has just finished testing their latest round of recruits, so they'll be interviewing and working through that process. Utilities, of course, we talked about the sewer line collapsing, so they've been focusing on that. We also had a main line break going to the carbon black about 2 weeks ago. They were able to repair that and get that back into service. It was just off the highway there. I do have, because of the high lead times, we're gonna start stocking some extra pipe that we don't necessarily normally stock, but with everything getting hard to get, I think it behooves us to spend a little money and make sure we've got some stuff so that we don't get stuck on that. But so they've been working on that. Emergency management's been working hard on the radio system. We're getting close to getting that ready to go live. We have installed user radios in the police and fire vehicles now, and they're working through some of that. Dispatch is going through their ProQA training again, which is the protocol software, which will fully integrate with the new CAD that we're in the middle of implementation.
Do we have an idea when this will be done? Of course, I guess the county has to go up at the same time we go up, don't they?
They don't have to.
Oh, they don't have to?
They're a little bit behind us, so most of ours can work on the single site, and this is the main site, so we're working on finishing tying in some connections with Potter County to get to the core and work on that. I think they're looking at sometime around February, March
Okay.
for a go-live date. The county will be just a little bit behind that. We have had initial conversations with Fritch and Stinnett. I do believe Stinnet's going to go onto the system. So you'll probably see some changes to our dispatching agreements to compensate for this SUA agreement changes. If you remember, our agreement with the county says that if somebody else comes on the system, we will renegotiate the percentage share of that SUA, which people coming on only reduces our cost. And so we've been working with Stinnett on that. So as that progresses into the next year, you might see that coming. And they've, emergency management's also started working on our updated hazard mitigation plan. So keeping that up to date, make sure that we're eligible for hazard mitigation grants. And so they're reaching out to that. And the fire department, like I said, they're, looks like they might have 4 or 5 possible candidates, good recruit candidates for their hiring process. We also did finally take delivery of engine 1, or the new engine 1, the new fire engine. That was ordered, if y'all remember, about 18 months ago. So Seagrave, the manufacturer, has been in town yesterday, today, and they'll be in town today, tomorrow, doing familiarization training with the crews before it goes into service. So we look at probably going to service later this week, maybe, Mike? They want it in service more than anybody, I'm sure, so.
They're complicated pieces of machinery.
Yeah. In Public Works, if you follow Facebook, we did finally get the new boom arm, hydraulic boom arm installed at the transfer station. We've been kind of limping that along for quite some time, but the new boom's a great improvement. And so we've started to see a little bit of efficiency over there, so that's quite nice. I'm excited for a leadership board. We'll be touring the city tomorrow. I know some of y'all probably know that, but I'm excited to have, little disappointed that they moved it from November to March because we won't have the dome to show them, but we do have a new boom and a new fire truck and a lot of other things to show them, so I'm excited about that. Actually, and Wayne they went to go pick up our new trailers that we budgeted for, which are there for the self-help program we put in place last year. So remember, if you have bulk waste and you can't take it to the transfer station, if you call, we will go set a trailer at your house. All you have to do is load it into the trailer, and then we'll come pick it up and dispose of it for you.
Thank you.
So we do have some more of those trailers coming in so that we can try to expand that program to, help those people that maybe can't get it to the transfer station. If you're a residential customer, we'll come set the trailer, put the trash in it, and we'll come pick it up. They're also finishing up a new hire now, so he'll start training. So hopefully, I think that'll help ease some of our route congestions. I know we've had some issues with our spare polycart truck is down because the hydraulic arm was damaged, and we're waiting on parts for it still, so when the other truck breaks down, we've had a couple of delays in polycart pickup with some maintenance issues. So we're working through supply issues there. And of course, the Parks Department, if you haven't noticed, they are very busy into the Christmas spirit. As Christmas lights are going up, and probably next week you'll see the trees start going up on Main Street. And I'll just remind everybody that, of course, December 3rd, which is Friday, is the Hometown Christmas event downtown. And then, of course, the Christmas parade downtown is the following Monday, the 6th, before our next meeting on the 7th. So it's been another busy month, lots going on, lots of progress, but I'll answer any other questions that anybody might have.
Good report, thank you. Thank you so much. Anyone have anything? If not, then we'll move on to the consent items. And if anyone doesn't have anything, we'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve consent items 6 through 8.
Second.
All in favor? And it passes. And moving on to item number 9, consider and take appropriate action to receive the annual report and approve a tourism services agreement with the Friends of the Hutchinson County Museum. Mrs. Flanders.
I know you all had a copy of this ahead of time, so I'm open to any questions. Did want to mention that our cowboy poetry event, which we've had 3 times now, we've just about outgrown Cofield. So we are hoping that by next September, we might be able to use the new facilities at the
Yes.
Dome for that,
Yeah.
because,
Well, we really hope so too. If it's not ready by next September, you know.
but
I don't think you'll fill it entirely up, but I bet we can
Well,
open up a
well,
couple
we
of
we
ones.
had to put a limit on the tickets
Yeah,
because we
it
couldn't.
was
Yeah,
packed.
and this Andy Hedges that comes from Lubbock, and he has some relatives in the border area, but he's very popular, and he's really drawn in some, and we have in line on another cowboy poet that we may try to bring in if we have the room to do it. So, but I'd be willing to answer any questions about this report that you might have.
I didn't
I
have
don't
any.
have it.
You're surviving with our squeeze that we took to help build the dome.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
We're
great.
doing okay, yeah, we are, thank you.
I will just add, Clay's been wonderful to work with the museum, and
Yeah.
he's been really helping us on the Dome project and
Right.
with the Alamo Refinery and some of the other things that we've got going,
So-
and with their downtown events. So as the council, one of the downtown revitalization plan and the council strategic goal for events and downtown events, and as we bring on the Main Street coordinator, you know, they're gonna be a key partner in that.
Well, I
so.
do want to mention on the second page of my report, we're going to try to celebrate Borger's birthday next March 5th with a celebration at Cofield. We will be at Cofield for that. So certainly would enjoy having all of you attend that.
That'd be good. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that the fiscal year 2020, 2021 annual report and the fiscal year 2022 tourist agreement between the Friends of the Hudson County Historical Museum and the City of Boyle be approved as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Right.
And it passes. And
Thank you.
Mrs. Flanders will be at the next one, which is consider and take appropriate action to receive the annual report and approve a tourism services agreement with the Tri-City Community Concert Association.
Also, you had the report on our concert.
Yes.
We kind of really took a hit with COVID. We lost a whole season. So we had our concerts all booked and no place to have them and no performers that wanted to travel. And I doubt if we'd have anybody that would want to come to them, so.
Yeah.
But we are up and running. We've had 3 concerts this fall. I gave you all a copy of the program from last Saturday night, which was a really great concert. Everybody there really enjoyed it, and we would have let you sing along, Pete, if you.
Yeah,
And we hope to get our student concerts back up. We had one scheduled for September, but the border schools were not allowing any outside visitors, so we had to cancel that one. But we have one in April, and we hope that's going to happen.
Anyone have anything else to add? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move with the fiscal year 2020 and 2021 annual report with the fiscal year 2022 tourism agreement between the Tri-City Community Concert Association and the City of Borger be approved as submitted.
Second.
All in favor? And it passes.
Thank you so
Ms.
much.
Flanders. Thank you
Appreciate
so
your
much.
help.
Thank you, Ms. Flanders.
Item number 11, consider and take appropriate action on ordinance O-017-21, amending the fiscal year 2022 operating budget. Mr. Spradlin.
So this is related to our coronavirus local fiscal recovery funding. So if you recall, about after the first, about back in January, they passed the American Rescue Act, or Recovery Act, which included a second round of direct funding to local governments. Our initial allocation was projected to be a little over $2.7 million. So when all was said and done and all the cities signed all their paperwork and the final allotment was determined, our allotment actually has gone up. Our total allotment is a little over $3 million, $3,076,000, which is about a $250,000 increase from where we thought it would be. Now, of course, this funding is restricted to its uses. And so we have not received this as income into our operating budget because it's not income until we have an authorized use for it. So while we have received the first 50% payment, which is $1,538,000, it's in the bank, but we have not realized it as income in the budget. Because as we've previously talked to the council, we don't want to take it as income and then all of a sudden it not be approved and have to give it back. So we're only going to take income when we approve a project that we know can be funded. So there are four main areas that's available for funding, which are to respond to public health emergencies or its negative economic impacts, to respond to workers performing essential work during COVID-19, to provide premium pay, for provisions of government services to the extent for the reduction of revenue. Of course, we did not have a revenue reduction. And then to make necessary investments in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. Water sewer does include stormwater, and as we've kind of talked about, we're looking at targeting some stormwater projects for a bulk of that funding because, that's investing in long-term infrastructure and not short-term gain. But we did discuss the council about premium pay for city employees. All of our employees are essential workers, and what we mean by that is regardless of the state of the pandemic, they had to come to work. And the vast majority of them had to come to work. There is not a remote way to empty your trash. I cannot remotely repair your water line or your sewer line. We cannot remotely put out your fire. The police did not have the option of virtually responding to your police crisis. So our workers, unlike some, Zoom did not solve our work-related problems. So Congress recognized that when they were establishing this, and they also noted that a lot of those essential workers work at a lower wage than the average wage. And so premium pay was a way to compensate those essential workers who were not eligible or not able to work from home, that had to bear the brunt of exposure or possible illness to perform their jobs. So the act allows us to provide up to $13 an hour premium pay for those employees that's total annual wages do not exceed 150% of the county's average annual wage. 150% of the county's average annual wage is $90,402. So what we proposed doing was a one-time extra payroll for our employees of premium pay, consisting of 80 hours at the maximum $13 an hour. So each eligible employee would receive an additional $1,040. So this is a one-time bonus. In addition, the other caveat of premium pay is it has to be in addition to their normal compensation. So I can't use this to offset overtime that they would have normally got. I can't use this to offset their salary. This is 100% in addition to anything they would have gotten. By the time we take out their Social Security and FICA and Medicare withholdings that are required, the take-home check, depending on, each employee's deductions are a little different depending on how they filed and set up their taxes, but it's right around $903. The total cost to the city, because then we have to match the TMRS contributions and we have to match some of the FICA contributions. So for all of the eligible employees, this is not me, this is not Brandon, this is not department directors. So this is, those essential workers that responded in the field that didn't have the ability to go home. To provide that to the employees that are on the payroll right now is $176,747.08. So it is less than 1% of our total allocation. As it is set up now, if the council approves this amendment, the checks will be processed December 3rd, which will fall the week in between their two regular payments, and will give a little reward to our employees right before Christmas. So what this ordinance does is it amends the budget to take that grant money into revenue, since this is an authorized expense, and then to adjust all of the salary and benefit line items to compensate for the extra pay. Is that simple enough for a very complicated thing?
It was
Sweet.
pretty, so, it was
Sweet.
pretty simple.
Yeah. I want to mention that, you know, when you've got 3 shifts of police and one person gets sick, there's got to be a lot of compartmentalization during this time when it was rampant. And there was a lot of impact on personnel, and they had some heavy-duty days, and so I think this is great, and it's Fed money, so I'm all too happy to spend the Fed's money.
Well, I'm very proud of our employees and how they
Yes,
responded
they did a
during
great
all of
job.
that. We had very few service interruptions and hiccups during that time, and were able to respond to our community's needs. And I'm definitely grateful for the council for considering this opportunity, and I know the employees are going to be very excited to get this right before Christmas.
Okay, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to introduce on first reading ordinance O-017-21, amending the fiscal year 2022 operating budget to support a premium pay bonus using Corona's local government fiscal recovery funds.
Second.
All in favor? And it passes. Do we have to have a public hearing?
No.
on that? Okay. I'm sorry. I couldn't remember. Okay, and we'll move on to item item 12. Consider and take appropriate action to approve amended resolution R-035-21, authorizing an option agreement between the Borger Economic Development Corporation and Green Peak H2 Operating 1 LLC. Mr. Spradlin.
So, in my desire to be ultra efficient in working with the BEDC, we drafted this item last week in the resolution prior to having the executed agreement. I drafted it based on the non-disclosure agreement that was signed, which was with Green Peak Resources LLC. So when we got the signed option agreement, I didn't really confirm the corporate entity name. So what we approved last week was not the corporate entity that actually signed the option agreement. So this resolution, this is an amended resolution to correct that name. So the correct the correct legal entity is Green Peak H2 Operating 1 LLC. So nothing else has changed. The option agreement hasn't changed. The plans, the goals, nothing else has changed. This is just correcting my mistake for trying to be too efficient. So,
There you go.
but I'll answer any other questions.
We appreciate your being on the ball. I would much rather have a thoroughbred, I gotta pull the reins back on, than an old nag I need to kick in the butt. So you keep being the thoroughbred and push on out there.
Okay, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution R-035-21, authorizing the Borger Economic Development Corporation to enter into an option agreement for the sale of Block 2, Lot 8 of the Borger EDC Industrial Park Unit Number 1 in the amount of $2,765,000 as amended.
Second.
All in favor? And it passes. And we'll move on to item number 13. Consider and take appropriate action to authorize the release of the following liens. Want me to read them, or are you just going to go for it?
We can,
Mr. Spradlin?
because there are kind of two here, of course. One's, so in research, some things have come up, and I did some research, and so the way that we've done liens, I think, is a little bit out of procedure. And the way the law says is that the governing body has to authorize liens and liens release. So the mayor has been signing these for some, predating this mayor and who knows how long. So we're kind of changing our process just a little bit to get back to what is correct. Most of the times there are pretty much two types of liens that we file. Weed liens, when we abate your weeds, you know, after we say been paid. Now the 802 and 804 Kennedy, we have a tipping fee lien for the demolition cost. We previously condemned that property and abated the buildings and filed the lien. After the lien was filed, the property went back for back taxes. It failed to sell at a sheriff's sale and became an entity property. It was then put up for auction through Texas Communities Group and was sold to Brad Davis. When Brad Davis, after he had it, he has sold it again, and the new owner is trying to develop the property. And in his plans, they did a title search on it. And so what I found out is that weed liens do not survive, or code enforcement liens do not they survive tax foreclosure. So those liens are still there. So most cities, and I've already amended our processes, you're gonna start seeing these, when we get a TCG, Texas Community Group bid come in, we're gonna check our liens for that property. And so likely when you award a bid to Texas Community Group in the future, we'll also be authorizing the release. I'm not for sure that it's fair to make a new owner pay the fees that the previous owner should have been responsible for. And in most cases on these tax lots, if we left the liens in place, the lots are never gonna sell. And we're still gonna have to be responsible for maintaining and dealing with it.
Because they would have to pay that lien.
Because they would have to pay the lien to get it off. So my recommendation on this is going to be, of course, to release the lien, the weed lien, because it's been paid. It needs to be released. And I would recommend releasing the lien on 802 Kennedy so that the development can go forward on that lot, those two lots.
Anybody?
Do you want us, did I do that a fair enough job for you?
Okay. Does anyone have anything they want to ask, talk about, or?
I don't have anything. If we're gonna, the property, if we're gonna develop the property, we get it back on tax roll, and I'm happy.
Yeah. Because you're right, it's not going to sell, and we're going to be responsible for
Yeah.
mowing and everything else.
There might be, it would be the random exception not to want to release it. I mean,
Right.
it'd be the random lot in a nice neighborhood where the lot should bring more, but that would be the way random exception. It's very unusual for, if this had foreclosed for back taxes prior to us demolishing it, we would have eaten the cost. Because we are still, most of the times, if the structure was still there before we allowed Texas Community Group to sell a property that has a substandard structure on it, we tear it down before we put it for auction. So in most of these cases, we would have borne the cost anyway. This is just one that went through a little differently.
Makes sense. Does anybody have anything? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to authorize the release of the liens at 829 Durr, 804 Kennedy, and 801 Kennedy.
Second.
And I just want to say I'm glad that we are going, because I agree it needs to be the government body that releases the lien, and, so I'm kind of glad about that. So, all in
Yes.
favor?
Right.
And it passes.
I will say in the future, likely most of these will be a part of the consent agenda, like we do with those tax deeds, as normal routine business.
Right. And I can see where there would be times that we would not do it. I mean, we would not release it. So, I'm it's coming before the council. Okay, at this time, we'll move on to 14, which we will go into executive session in compliance with Chapter 551, Texas Government Code, Open Meetings Law. The council will retire into executive session related to Section 51.074 personnel matters, discuss the appointment, dismissal, and/or duties and responsibilities of the position of Chief of Police. So at this time,
Just sign this real quick before we go back there. He's facing some time.
let's see, where are we at here?
Okay, we have returned to open session, and at this time, we're going to move on to item 15, consider and take appropriate action, if necessary, on the appointment, dismissal, and/or duties and responsibilities of the position of Chief of Police. And anyone have
I
anything to
don't
say?
have any questions.
If not, then I'll entertain a motion.
I move to confirm the city manager appointment of Dawn Davis as Chief of Police effective January 1st, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And it passes. Congratulations, Donnie.
Let's worry now,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, where he starts now. We feel comfortable that you'll do a great job. We enjoyed the meet and greet, that we felt like the community really, you're really intersected with you really well, so really pleased. We know you'll take it to the level that we're wanting it to go. So, appreciate it.
And thank you, Chief.
Yes.
We appreciate you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chief Roberts. And at this time, we'll consider and take appropriate action to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? And we are adjourned.
I got 2 stops to make and then.